Bonnie Raitt is by far one of the most recognized names in the music industry today, but looking back, we can't help but remember that she almost ended her life as just a footnote in the world of music. In her desperation for success, she went into a dark hole most people never made a return from. But she did. How? And how come she never got real success in her career until her 10th album? Let's find out while we also show you some of her rare photos. On November 8, 1949, Bonnie Lynn Raitt was born to John Raitt and Marge Haydock Goddard in Burbank, California. Her father is descended from Scottish nobility, as his ancestors constructed the infamous Raitt Castle in Nairn, Scotland. Bonnie's parents were well off, as her mother was a pianist while her father was an actor starring in large musical productions like Oklahoma and The Pajama Game. While this was a blessing to Bonnie in some ways, it was a curse in other ways. Due to his job as an actor, Bonnie's father, whom she had always connected with more than her mother, was often away from home. This meant that Bonnie was subjected to the control of her domineering mother. Bonnie began to resent her mother for how harshly she treated her, and this made her a tomboyish child who would always hang around her brothers. Naturally, growing up in such a musical household, both Bonnie and her brothers were strongly encouraged to pursue music. Initially, Bonnie was attracted by the piano. However, intimidated by how great her mother was at the instrument, she shrunk away from it. Instead, she fell for another instrument, the guitar. She had received a Stella guitar as a Christmas gift at the age of 8 and practiced it as much as she could. Bonnie's mother did not teach her guitar, neither did she enroll her in formal lessons. Instead, Bonnie learned mostly by herself by listening to the radio. In the 50s, American folk music was undergoing a great revival. This was complemented by the beatnik movement at the time. These ideals and aesthetics greatly appealed to a young Bonnie. They would influence not just her music, but her entire outlook on life. In fact, in her own words, she grew her hair out just so she could look like a beatnik. Between the ages of 8 and 15, Bonnie's mother sent her and her brothers away to a music camp in the Adirondack Mountains of New York. There, Bonnie finally found the opportunity to truly expand on her musical talent. The camp counselors would always encourage Bonnie to play in front of the other campers at a campfire. While this improved Bonnie's skill at performing in front of a public audience, it also revealed certain insecurities that almost derailed her musical career. What happened was that Bonnie had become quite the self-conscious teenager. She worried endlessly about her weight and about her freckled face. This made performing in public very hard. Sure, she loved music, as it allowed her to escape from all her troubles in reality. However, like a double-edged sword, it hurt her whenever she had to perform in public. Instead of focusing on the music, she would be focusing on her appearance. So all she did was stay in her room and play the guitar. Bonnie's self-consciousness got so bad that after graduating high school, she had no interest in pursuing music professionally. Instead, upon enrolling in Harvard University's Radcliffe College, she decided to major in social relations and African studies. See, she had gotten it into her head that after graduation, she would move to Tanzania, where President Julius Nyerere was building a just socialist society. That would take her away from folk music, away from the beatniks, away from her controlling mother, and out of the public eye entirely. Well, for all of Bonnie's naive plans, she just couldn't erase the affinity she had for music. In 1970, students of Harvard University went on strike, calling attention to the injustices of the Vietnam War. To support their efforts, a campus music group known as the Revolutionary Music Collective was founded. Their lead singer was none other than Bonnie Raitt herself. It was through her activities with the group that Bonnie met blues promoter Dick Waterman. All of a sudden, the spark for a musical career, which she had tried so much to smother, blazed once again. In her second year of college, she dropped out, abandoning her plans of moving to Tanzania and starting a new life. Instead, with Waterman and a few other local musicians, she moved to Philadelphia. According to Bonnie herself, this was the opportunity that changed everything. In Philadelphia, Bonnie performed a couple of times on stage with her brother David. She also opened for John Hammond at the Gaslight Cafe in New York. Bonnie's work in this local circuit attracted the attention of a significant number of music critics. They all wrote great pieces about her, hyping up her guitar playing skills. At the time, female guitarists were quite rare. Furthermore, aided by Bonnie's parents' connections, she had no trouble reaching the front pages. This culminated in Bonnie signing a contract with Warner Bros. which was one of the major record labels at the time. This led to the release of Bonnie's first self-titled album in 1971 when she was 22 years old. Naturally, the album was well received by critical circles. However, commercially speaking, it failed to take off. This became the theme for the next 2 decades of Bonnie's life and musical career. She would release music that was critically praised. Yet, the charts and the radio were not as welcoming. Some people felt that the praise Bonnie was getting should have made her happy and satisfied. If anything, it had the complete opposite effect. Perhaps her label was happy with the small amount of success and copious levels of praise. For Bonnie, though, she was so unhappy that she started to have an identity crisis. Eventually, this began to affect the music, so much so that critics started to turn against her. While her first and second albums were universally praised, the reaction to the third was a lot more mixed. Unbeknown to most of her fans at the time, Bonnie started to abuse drugs and alcohol. How she yearned for the beatnik days of her youth. She wished she was making music that connected not just to a small circle of critics, but to a large group of regular people as well. In abusing drugs and alcohol, she thought she would finally tap into the authenticity that allowed one to make great music. Unfortunately, she could not be further from the truth. Instead of unlocking any latent musical ability, all the drug abuse did was destroy Bonnie's body. She was headed for the grave, and she knew it. Eventually, in the late 80s, she sought professional help for her problem. One of the catalysts of this change was the musician Stevie Ray Vaughan. Similar to what Bonnie was suffering through at the time, Vaughan had suffered from substance abuse for most of his musical career. When Bonnie observed he was a better musician sober than when he was when using, it made her realize she had been stupid and gave her the courage to break her addiction. After all, just because she admired beatnik artists didn't mean that she had to adopt their lifestyle. In 1987, Bonnie finally got clean. At the time, she stated that she felt some angels had been carrying her around, giving her more focus, discipline, and self-respect. Perhaps there was something to this statement, because in 1989, after leaving Warner Bros. And signing a new record deal with Capitol Records, she released what is regarded as her best album ever, Nick of Time. Nick of Time was not just a critical success, but was a commercial success as well. This was the 10th album of Bonnie's career, a milestone which she called her first really sober album. It was nominated for 4 Grammys, winning all of them. It also topped the US albums chart. Suffice it to say, the album arrived right in the nick of time. Bonnie always had talent and connections, but that was not enough for her to make it. After years of soul-searching, she had finally hit her stride. Finally, she was making the type of music that she wanted to make on entirely her own terms. Finally, she didn't have to take drugs to induce any authenticity. 2 decades into her career and 4 decades into her life, she was finally a hit. From here on out, the floodgates of success opened wide for Bonnie Raitt. She became not just a nationwide sensation, but a worldwide star as well. As of now, she has won 13 competitive Grammy Awards from 30 nominations. All this on top of a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. After giving up on imitating her childhood heroes, she found that her personal style has unlimited global appeal. As close back as 2022, she won a Grammy for Song of the Year with her hit single Just Like That. Not many artists in any field can claim to have the kind of appeal and longevity that Bonnie Raitt has. For her, all she had to do to achieve that was to be herself. 52 years into her career, she is still putting out new music, going on tours, and moreover, connecting with the masses that she loves so much. If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.